The morning sun rose over Colony 7 like it did every other day. Children ran through the streets of Nu, the largest city on the planet. Mothers called them inside for breakfast. Fathers left for work in the mining facilities. It was a peaceful morning, and no one knew it would be their last. Stood on her balcony and watched the sky turn orange and pink. She was 28 years old, a teacher at the colony's main school. She loved her life here, far from the crowded cities of Earth. The air was clean. The people were kind. She had built a home on this distant world. Her communicator buzzed. It was a message from her brother. He was an admiral in Earth's space fleet stationed 3 star systems away. The message was simple. "Happy birthday, little sister. I'll visit next month. Save me some of that spicy rice cake you make." Smiled and typed back, "You better bring gifts, real Earth chocolate this time." She never got to send that message. The first bomb hit the city center at exactly 7:42 in the morning. The explosion was so bright that thought a second sun had appeared in the sky. Then the shockwave came. It threw her across the room like she weighed nothing at all. More bombs fell. They came from warships that had appeared without warning. The Empire had been Earth's neighbor in the galaxy for 50 years. They were tall beings with gray skin and 4 arms. They had always looked down on humans. They called humans the young ones and treated them like children who did not belong among the stars. But no one expected this. No one expected war. Crawled to her window and saw hell. Buildings collapsed like toys. Fire spread everywhere. People ran and screamed, but there was nowhere to run. The ships filled the sky and they showed no mercy. In the school where worked, 300 children had just started their classes. The building took a direct hit. There were no survivors. Tried to reach the emergency shelter. Everyone in the colony knew where it was. They had practiced drills many times, but those drills were for natural disasters, not for bombs falling from the sky. She made it halfway down the street when she saw Old, the baker who gave free bread to poor families. He was lying on the ground, not moving. Stopped to help him, but his eyes were empty. The kindest man in Nu was dead. The bombing continued for 3 hours. 3 hours of death. 3 hours of fire. 3 hours of screaming that slowly became silence. When it finally stopped, the ships left as quickly as they had come. They did not land troops. They did not take prisoners. They did not want the colony. They only wanted death. 2 million people lived on Colony 7 that morning. By noon, the number was 0. 3 star systems away, Admiral was in a meeting when the first distress signal came through. The signal was weak and broken, but he heard the words clearly. "Under attack. Ships, please help, please." The voice belonged to a young communications officer named Sumi. Had met her once during his last visit to see his sister. She was barely 20 years old, fresh out of training. "All ships, emergency departure," commanded. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking. "Maximum speed to 7." His fleet was fast, but space was vast. It would take them 6 hours to reach the colony. 6 hours felt like 6 years. During those 6 hours, tried to contact the colony again and again. There was no answer. He tried to contact his sister's personal communicator. Silence. He tried the emergency channels, the civilian networks, even the old radio frequencies. Nothing but static. When the fleet finally arrived at 7, understood why no one had answered. The planet was burning. From orbit, he could see the fires covering the largest continent. The cities were gone. The farms were gone. Everything humans had built over 30 years was destroyed. "Sir," his second-in-command, Captain Bora, said quietly, "we're scanning for life signs." Stood at the bridge window and stared at the burning world. He did not blink. He did not speak. He just waited. The scan took 10 minutes. 10 minutes of hope dying slowly. "No life signs detected," Bora reported. Her voice cracked. "Admiral, there's no one left." His legs gave out. He fell to his knees on the bridge and no one moved to help him. They all understood. They all felt the same pain. 2 million people, gone in 3 hours. Men, women, children, bobbies, teachers like bakers like, young officers like Sumi, all of them dead. And for what? They gave no warning. They made no demands. They simply decided that humans did not deserve to live on that planet, so they killed everyone. Knelt there for a long time. His crew watched in silence. Some of them cried. Some of them prayed. Some of them just stared at the burning planet, unable to understand how anyone could do such a thing. Finally stood up. His face had changed. The kind eyes that his sister loved were gone. In their place was something cold and hard, something that scared his own crew. "Record everything," he ordered. "Every piece of evidence, every body we can find, every bit of weapon signature. I want the galaxy to see what happened here." "And then, sir?" Bora asked. Did not answer. He just stared at the planet where his sister had died, where 2 million innocent people had been murdered, and he made a silent promise. The galaxy had been watching humanity for 50 years, wondering what these strange beings from Earth were really capable of. Humans had always smiled and talked about peace. They had always followed the rules and played nice with the older races. But that was about to change. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral sent one message to Earth. It contained no words, only the footage of Seven's destruction. Earth received the message 6 hours later. By the next morning, every human in the galaxy had seen it. And then something strange happened. Every human ambassador in the galaxy went silent. Trade ships turned around and headed home. Research stations closed their doors. Mining operations shut down. The other species in the galaxy watched with confusion. They expected anger. They expected demands for justice. They expected humans to cry and beg the Galactic Council for help. Instead, they got silence. And silence, as the galaxy would soon learn, was far more terrifying than any threat. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. For 3 weeks after the massacre at Seven, humanity went completely silent. No messages, no communications, no presence at any galactic events. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting to discuss the situation. Representatives from 42 species gathered in the Great Hall on Station Prime, the center of galactic politics. Ambassador of the Empire stood tall and proud. He had 4 arms like all, and he used them to gesture dramatically as he spoke. "The humans are clearly in shock," he said with a thin smile. "They were never strong enough for space. Perhaps now they will return to their little planet and leave the galaxy to those who belong here." Some representatives nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable but said nothing. They were powerful, and no one wanted to make them angry. Only Ambassador of the Federation spoke up. There were small beings with large eyes, known for their wisdom and their friendship with humans. "You murdered 2 million civilians," said quietly. "Children, bobbies. You bombed a peaceful colony without warning, and you stand there smiling." Laughed. "They were building too close to our border. We simply cleaned up the mess." Stared at him for a long moment. Then she shook her head and left the council chamber without another word. She knew something the others did not. She had spent 20 years working with humans, and she had seen things that made her very afraid of what was coming. Back on Earth, the silence was not a sign of weakness. It was a sign of preparation. General stood in the command center of Earth's secret military base, hidden deep underground. She was 53 years old, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. She had spent her whole career preparing for a day she hoped would never come. Now it was here. "Show me the status," she ordered. Huge screens lit up around her. They showed images of Earth's orbital shipyards, places that the galaxy thought were simple repair stations. In truth, they were weapons factories. For 100 years, since humanity first reached the stars, Earth had been hiding its true power. The galactic races looked at human ships and saw simple vessels with basic weapons. What they did not see were the hidden compartments, the secret systems, the technology that humans had developed but never shown to anyone. "Project Thunder is at 80%, reported Colonel, a young man with tired eyes. He had not slept in days. "We need 2 more weeks to finish the fleet." "You have 1 week," said. "General, that's impossible. They are already celebrating. They think we're scared. If we wait too long, they might attack again. 1 week, Colonel, find a way." Nodded and hurried away to push his teams harder. Walked through the underground base, watching thousands of workers build weapons of war. She remembered when she was young, when her grandmother told her stories about old Earth, about the wars humans fought against each other. "We stopped fighting each other when we reached the stars," her grandmother had said. "We became better, we became peaceful." "But what if someone attacks us?" Young had asked. Her grandmother had smiled a strange smile. "Then they will learn why we were so eager to find peace. They will learn what happens when humanity decides to fight." Now, 50 years later, finally understood what her grandmother meant. In another part of the base, Admiral was reviewing battle plans. He had not slept since 7. He could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his sister's face. Engineer Jenna entered his office with a tablet in her hands. She was the weapons designer on Earth, responsible for many of the secret systems that humanity had hidden from the galaxy. "Admiral, I need to show you something." She placed the tablet on his desk. On the screen was a ship design unlike anything the galaxy had seen. It was sleek and dark, covered with weapons that did not look like they belonged in this century. "We call it the Shadow Class," Jenna explained. "It can move faster than any ship, its weapons can cut through their shields like paper, and it has something special." "What?" Jenna touched the screen and a new image appeared. "Stealth technology, true stealth. The galaxy thinks it's impossible to hide a ship completely from sensors. They're wrong. We figured it out 30 years ago." Stared at the design. "How many can you build in 1 week?" 12. "Build 20. Jenna opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She saw the look in his eyes and understood. Arguments were pointless now. "Yes, Admiral." As she left, turned to look at a picture on his desk. It showed him and his children playing in a park on Earth. She was smiling, missing her 2 front teeth. "I'm sorry I wasn't there," he whispered, "but I promise you they will pay." Across the galaxy, the silence from Earth was making other species nervous. The Collective, an alliance of trading species, sent messages to Earth asking for updates. No reply. The kingdom, known for their warrior culture, offered to mediate between humans and no reply. Even the ancient, the oldest species in the galaxy, broke their usual silence to ask what was happening. No reply. The however were not worried. They were celebrating. In their capital city, crowds cheered the great victory at 7. Propaganda screens showed images of the burning human colony, calling it justice and necessary cleaning. High Commander, the military leader who had ordered the attack, gave speeches about superiority. He was tall even for a, with dark gray skin and golden eyes that showed no mercy. "The humans thought they could spread across our galaxy like insects," he told cheering crowds. "We showed them their place. Now they hide on their little planet, afraid to face us again." His soldiers laughed and celebrated. They had no idea what was coming. Back on Earth, General received a message from the civilian government. President wanted to address the military leadership. Traveled to the capital and joined other generals in a secure room. President was a small woman with kind eyes, but today those eyes were hard as stone. "I have spoken with every world leader on Earth," the president said. "We have made a decision." She paused, looking at each general in turn. "For 100 years, we have played the role of peaceful newcomers. We smiled at species who looked down on us. We followed rules made by others. We hid our strength because we wanted to show that humanity was civilized. Her voice grew cold. Those days are over. The murdered 2 million of our people, our children, our families. They showed no mercy, so they will receive none. She pressed a button, and a document appeared on every screen in the room. It was simple and direct. This is the official declaration of total war against the Empire. There will be no negotiations, no prisoners, no mercy. We will destroy their military completely. We will make them an example for any species that ever thinks about harming humanity again. The generals stood in silence. They had trained for this moment their whole lives, but hearing the words still felt strange. Humanity had been peaceful for so long. But peace, they all understood, was a choice, and they had made that choice impossible. "When do we begin?" General asked. President looked at the date on her screen. 1 week had passed since the massacre. The secret fleet was almost ready. "Soon," she said, "very soon." And far away in space, they continued to celebrate, completely unaware that the silence from Earth was not fear. It was the calm before the storm. Captain stood on the bridge of the Shadow One, the first ship of Earth's new fleet. Around him, 19 identical vessels floated in the darkness of space. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time, painted black as night and bristling with weapons. Behind the Shadow-class ships came the rest of the first Retribution fleet. 200 warships of various sizes, all of them carrying humanity's hidden technology. They had been built in secret over decades, waiting for a moment that everyone hoped would never come. That moment was now here. Was 35 years old, a career Navy officer who had never fired a weapon in anger. Like most humans of his generation, he had grown up believing that peace was the natural state of things. War was something from history books, something that happened long ago on old Earth. 7 had changed everything. "All ships report ready," said Lieutenant Sora, his second in command. She was young, barely 25, but her eyes were hard with determination. She had lost friends on 7. "Signal Admiral," ordered. "Tell him the Shadow Wing is in position." The Admiral's face appeared on the screen moments later. He looked older than his years, aged by grief and sleepless nights, but his voice was strong. "Captains, this is Admiral. In 1 hour we will enter space. For the first time in human history, we are going to war." He paused, letting the weight of those words sink in. "I know many of you joined the Navy expecting to never fight. I know you were taught that humanity had moved beyond war, but war came to us. It came to our people, our families, our children. 2 million innocent lives taken without mercy." On every ship in the fleet, crew members stood at attention and listened. "The galaxy thinks we are weak. They think we are soft. They think our peaceful nature means we cannot fight. Today, we prove them wrong. Today, we show them what humanity is capable of when pushed too far." The Admiral's eyes seemed to burn with cold fire. "We are not here for revenge. Revenge is personal and small. We are here for justice. We are here to send a message to every species in the galaxy. If you harm innocent humans, there will be consequences. There will be no escape. There will be no mercy." He straightened his shoulders. "First Retribution Fleet, begin jump sequence. Earth expects us to do our duty." The fleet jumped. Faster-than-light travel was strange. The stars stretched into lines of light, and then everything went white. For a moment, it felt like being nowhere and everywhere at the same time. When they emerged, they were in the outer regions of space. "Activate stealth systems," commanded. On every Shadow-class ship, the new technology hummed to life. The ships seemed to fade from reality, becoming invisible to every known sensor in the galaxy. "Stealth confirmed," Sora reported. "The defense grid is not detecting us." Nodded. This was the key to the entire plan. They had powerful defenses and a large fleet. In a direct fight, the battle would be costly for both sides, but they could not fight what they could not see. The Shadow Wing moved deeper into enemy space, passing patrol ships without being noticed. It was like being a ghost, floating through a world that did not know you existed. Their first target was the military shipyard at Station 7. It was where they built their warships, the same ships that had destroyed 7. "Target in range," Sora announced. Looked at the station on his screen. It was massive, with thousands of workers and dozens of ships under construction. For a moment, he hesitated. Those were living beings in that station. Did they deserve to die for what their government had done? Then he remembered the footage from 7. The burning cities, the bodies of children, the silence of 2 million voices that would never speak again. All shadow ships prepare to fire. 20 ships aimed their weapons at the station. The workers inside continued their day, unaware that death was watching them. Fire. The new weapons were something the galaxy had never seen. They were based on technology that humans had developed, but kept secret, beam weapons that could cut through shields and armor like they were made of paper. The beams were perfectly silent in the vacuum of space, invisible until they hit their target. The station had no chance. Explosions ripped through it in seconds. The shields failed immediately. The armor melted. The ships under construction broke apart. In less than a minute, the largest military shipyard was reduced to floating debris. "Target destroyed," Sora reported. Her voice was steady, professional, but could see her hands shaking. He felt the same way. They had just killed thousands of beings. It was necessary, but it was not easy. Humans were not built for killing. That was why they had worked so hard to create peace. But sometimes peace was not possible. "Move to the next target," ordered. The Shadow Wing continued its silent destruction. Over the next 12 hours, they destroyed 14 military installations across space. Shipyards, weapon factories, defense platforms, communication relays. Each target fell without ever knowing what hit them. Meanwhile, the rest of the First Retribution Fleet engaged the Navy directly. Admiral led the main force against the Third Fleet, which was patrolling the border. The commander, Admiral, was confident when he saw the human ships approaching. "Finally, they come to fight," he laughed. "Their little ships against our battle cruisers. This will be over quickly." He was right about one thing. It was over quickly. The human ships fired first, and the shields failed instantly. The new weapons punched through armor that was supposed to be invincible. Ships exploded one after another. Admiral's confidence turned to confusion, then to fear. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Our shields should be holding." "Sir, their weapons are unlike anything in our database," his officer reported. "We have no defense against them." "Retreat, all ships retreat." But it was too late. The human fleet was faster, their weapons had longer range, and their tactics were perfect. Within 2 hours, the Third Fleet was destroyed, 47 warships gone. Admiral's flagship was the last to fall. Could have captured him, taken prisoners, tried to negotiate. Instead, he remembered his sister's face and gave one simple order. "No survivors." The flagship exploded. News of the battle reached Prime within hours. High Commander, who had celebrated the massacre at 7, stared at the reports in disbelief. "Impossible," he said. "The humans cannot have such technology. They are primitives." But the evidence was clear. The Third Fleet was gone. 14 military installations were destroyed, and the human fleet was already moving deeper into space. Called an emergency meeting of the Military Council. "We must mobilize everything," he declared. "Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. The humans have somehow found new technology, but we still have superior numbers. We will crush them." The council agreed. Orders went out to every corner of the empire. The entire military was put on war footing. But they were already too late. While they scrambled to respond, the Shadow Wing was approaching their most important target, the home fleet station orbiting Prime itself. This was where they kept their best ships, their most advanced weapons, their finest warriors. Captain looked at the massive station on his screen. It was 3 times larger than anything they had attacked before. Hundreds of warships were docked there. "Shadow Wing, this is Shadow One," he said. "Today we cut off the head of the snake, for 7, for our people, for humanity." 20 invisible ships took aim at the heart of the Empire. And they fired. The home fleet station burned in the sky above Prime. Citizens looked up and saw their greatest symbol of military power falling apart in flames. Debris rained down through the atmosphere like shooting stars, but these stars brought only death. Stood on the bridge of the human flagship, watching the destruction she had ordered. She was 70 years old, the senior diplomatic representative of Earth. For 40 years, she had worked for peace between species. She had believed in cooperation and understanding. That belief had died with 7, a colony named after her grandmother. "Broadcast channels are open," reported Admiral. Nodded and stepped forward. Her face appeared on every screen across Prime, interrupting their news broadcasts, their entertainment, their military communications. Every citizen saw this small human woman with gray hair and tired eyes. "People of the Empire," she began. "1 month ago, your military murdered 2 million innocent humans, children, families, peaceful settlers who wanted nothing more than to build homes and raise families." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Your leaders did not warn us. They did not make demands. They simply decided that human lives were worthless, and they killed without mercy." On Prime, citizens watched in shocked silence. Many of them had celebrated the attack on 7. They had been told that humans were pests, insects that needed to be removed. They had believed the propaganda. Now they were seeing the truth. "You taught us something important," continued. "You taught us that mercy is seen as weakness. You taught us that playing by the rules means nothing when your enemy has no rules. You taught us that being civilized is worthless when facing those who are not." Her eyes grew cold. Lesson learned. Behind her, the human fleet moved into position. 200 warships surrounded Prime. The planet's defense grid had been destroyed in the first wave of attacks. The home fleet was burning debris. There was nothing left to protect the. "As I speak, our forces have destroyed your military installations across 12 star systems. Your fleets are broken. Your shipyards are ruins. Your weapons factories are ash. The military no longer exists." On the surface of Prime, panic was spreading. People ran through the streets, not knowing where to go. Some tried to flee in civilian ships, but human vessels blocked every escape route. The planet was completely surrounded. High Commander stood in his command center, watching his empire fall apart. Just 1 month ago, he had been a hero, celebrated for destroying the human colony. Now he was watching the end of everything. "We must surrender," said one of his generals. "We have no choice." "No," shouted, "the do not surrender, we will fight to the last." "Fight with what?" the general asked. "Our fleet is gone, our weapons are destroyed, we cannot even scratch their ships." Grabbed the general by his uniform. "Then we die with honor." "There is no honor in extinction." "Let go." He slumped into his chair, a broken man who could not accept what he had brought upon his people. On the human flagship, Admiral received a message from the surface. Someone wanted to negotiate. "It's their civilian government," Lieutenant Bora reported. "They want to talk surrender terms." Looked at, the decision was hers to make. Thought about it for a long moment. Every part of her wanted to continue the attack. She wanted to make them feel every bit of pain that the colonists of 7 had felt. She wanted revenge. But she also remembered why humanity had worked so hard for peace. Revenge felt good, but it solved nothing. Destroying them completely would make humanity no better than them. Open communications, she ordered. Appeared on screen. He was old, with pale gray skin and eyes full of fear. He was not a military commander but a civilian leader, one who had opposed the attack on Seven from the beginning. I am Minister, he said. I speak for the civilian government of Prime. We wish to discuss terms of surrender. You want to surrender now? Asked. After what you did to our people. Lowered his head. What was done to your colony was a crime. I opposed it. Many of us opposed it. But High Commander had the support of the military and we could not stop him. That is not our concern. Your entire society celebrated the massacre. Your news called it a great victory. Your children cheered in the streets. Yes, admitted. We were wrong. We were taught to see humans as lesser beings, as insects to be crushed. Now we see the truth. We see what we awakened. Stared at him for a long moment. What do you offer? Complete surrender. We will disarm completely. We will pay whatever reparations you demand. We will hand over those responsible for the attack. We will do anything you ask if you spare our civilians. Like you spared ours. Had no answer for that. Turned away from the screen and looked at Admiral. The Admiral's face was hard, his eyes empty. She knew he wanted to continue the attack. He wanted to destroy everything in revenge for his sister. What do you think? She asked quietly. Was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Would not want us to become monsters. She was a teacher. She believed in second chances. She would tell us to be better than them. He paused. But she is dead, and 2 million others are dead, and nothing will bring them back. Nodded. She understood his pain because she felt it too. She turned back to the screen. Minister, we will accept your surrender on the following terms. She listed them carefully. Complete disarmament of all military forces. Payment of massive reparations to the families of the victims. Immediate arrest and trial of all officials involved in planning the attack. Permanent human military bases on Prime to ensure compliance. And one more thing. You will teach your children the truth about what happened. Not propaganda, not lies. The truth. You will show them what your military did to innocent people, and you will teach them that such actions have consequences. Agreed to everything. But High Commander did not agree. As the surrender was being finalized, he gathered what remained of his loyal soldiers. They numbered only a few hundred, but they were fanatics, willing to die rather than surrender. We will not let the humans take our world, declared. If we must die, we will take as many of them with us as possible. He had one final weapon, hidden deep beneath the capital city. A bomb powerful enough to destroy everything within 1,000 kilometers. If he could not have victory, he would have destruction. But the humans had learned from Seven. They were watching everything. Captain's shadow wing detected the bomb activation sequence immediately. They traced it to an underground bunker where and his soldiers were hiding. Admiral, we have a problem, reported. They're trying to activate some kind of massive weapon. Did not hesitate. Stop them, whatever it takes. The shadow wing moved. Their stealth technology allowed them to position directly above the bunker without being detected. Their weapons were precise enough to destroy the bunker without harming the city around it. Fire ordered. The beams cut through the ground like hot knives through ice. They reached the bunker in seconds, destroying everything inside. High Commander died without ever seeing what killed him. The bomb was destroyed before it could activate. On the surface, they watched in amazement. The humans had saved their capital city from their own military leader. They could have let the bomb explode and blamed it on the. Instead, they chose to protect innocent lives. Minister sent a message too. You saved us. Even after everything we did, you saved us. Why? His answer was simple. Because we are not you, we do not murder innocents. We never wanted this war. We wanted peace. We still want peace. but we will no longer accept being victims." She looked at the burning wreckage of the military, at the surrounded planet, at the defeated empire. "Remember this day. Tell your children and their children. This is what happens when you harm humanity, not because we enjoy destruction, not because we are monsters, but because we will protect our people no matter the cost." The surrender was signed that night. The empire was no more. 6 months had passed since the surrender. Commander stood on a platform overlooking the main square of the capital city. Around him stood soldiers from Earth, the first permanent human military force stationed on an alien world. The flag of Earth rose slowly up a tall pole in the center of the square. It was blue and green, showing the planet that humanity called home. Below it hung a smaller flag, white with a single red flower. This was the new flag of Colony 7, created to remember the 2 million who died. Saluted as both flags reached the top and began to wave in the alien wind. He was 40 years old, a soldier who had spent his career training for battles that never came. Now he commanded the human garrison on Prime, responsible for making sure the never again threatened humanity. It was a heavy responsibility, but carried it with pride. "Commander," said Lieutenant, his aide, "the delegation from the Galactic Council is arriving." Nodded. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy were coming to discuss what had happened and what it meant for the future. The meeting took place in what used to be the military headquarters. Human soldiers now guarded the doors, and human flags hung on the walls. The message was clear. Things had changed forever. Ambassador of the Federation spoke first. Her large eyes were full of emotion as she addressed the gathered representatives. "We have witnessed something unprecedented in galactic history. A species we all considered peaceful and harmless has revealed itself to be one of the most powerful military forces in the known galaxy. The question we must answer is, what now?" The representatives shifted uncomfortably. Many of them had treated humans the same way they had, looking down on them as inferior beings. Now they wondered if they might be next. Stepped forward to address the council. She looked older than she had 6 months ago, worn down by war and responsibility, but her voice was strong. "Let me be clear about what happened and why. Humanity did not want war. We spent 100 years building peaceful relations with every species we encountered. We followed every rule. We respected every treaty. We were good neighbors." She paused. "They repaid our peace with genocide. They murdered 2 million innocent people simply because they could, and the galaxy did nothing. No one spoke up. No one offered help. You all watched and waited to see what would happen." Several representatives looked away in shame. She was telling the truth, and they knew it. "Now you want to know what we will do next. Will we attack others? Will we conquer the galaxy? Will we become the monsters you always feared we might be?" Shook her head. "No, that is not who we are. We did not enjoy what we did to the. Every death weighs on our souls, but we will not apologize for defending our people. We will not apologize for showing the galaxy that human lives have value." She looked around the room, meeting each representative's eyes. "Here is what humanity demands, not asks, demands. From this day forward, any attack on human civilians will be met with the same response they received. Any species that murders our people will face the full might of Earth's military. There will be no warnings. There will be no negotiations. There will be no mercy." The room was completely silent. "However," continued, "we have no interest in conquest. We have no interest in empire. We want to live in peace with our neighbors. We want to trade and cooperate and build a better future together. That has always been our goal, and it remains our goal." She spread her hands. "The choice is yours. Be our friends, and you will find no species more loyal, more generous, more helpful. Be our enemies, and you will find no force in the galaxy more terrible. The learned this lesson the hard way. We hope the rest of you are wiser. After the meeting, the galaxy changed forever. The collective immediately signed a new treaty with Earth, offering favorable trade terms and mutual defense agreements. The kingdom, impressed by humanity's military performance, requested permission to study with human warriors. Even the ancient, who had watched younger species rise and fall for millions of years, sent a message of respect. The species that had looked down on humanity for a century suddenly wanted to be friends. On Prime, life slowly returned to normal. The occupation was not cruel or oppressive. Human soldiers helped rebuild what had been destroyed. Human engineers shared technology to improve lives. Human teachers opened schools to educate a new generation of children about peace and respect. Minister, who had led the surrender negotiations, became the new leader of the people. He worked closely with Commander to build a new relationship between their species. "I never thought I would say this," told one day, "but I am grateful for what happened, not for the destruction but for the change it brought. My people were taught to hate, to conquer, to dominate. Now we are learning a better way." Nodded, "That is all we ever wanted, peace and respect. We never asked to be feared." "But you are feared," said. "Everyone in the galaxy is afraid of humanity now." Smiled sadly. "I know, and perhaps that fear will keep the peace better than any treaty, but I hope someday it will fade. I hope someday we will be known not as the species that destroyed the military, but as the species that helped rebuild society." Back on Earth, a memorial was being built for the victims of Seven. It was a vast garden filled with 2 million flowers, one for each person who died. In the center stood a statue of a woman holding a child, representing all the mothers and children who were lost. Admiral visited the memorial on its opening day. He walked through the flowers until he found one with a small plaque bearing his sister's name. "Teacher, sister, friend." He knelt beside the flower and cried. He had not cried since the day of the massacre. He had been too busy fighting, too focused on revenge and justice. Now, finally, he allowed himself to grieve. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I'm sorry this happened, but I promise you it will never happen again. No one will ever do this to our people again." He stayed there for a long time, alone with his memories. In the weeks and months that followed, humanity continued to grow and expand across the galaxy. New colonies were founded, new trade routes were opened, new friendships were formed. But something was different now. Humans no longer tried to hide their strength. They no longer pretended to be weaker than they were. They walked among the stars with confidence, knowing that they had earned their place through both peace and war. Other species watched them with a mix of respect and fear. The story of the war was told across the galaxy, passed from generation to generation. It became a lesson, a warning, a reminder. Humans were not weak. Humans were not soft. Humans had simply chosen to be peaceful because they believed it was the right thing to do. But if you took that choice away from them, if you forced them to fight, they would show you why peace was always the better option. Years later, when historians wrote about this period, they called it the Awakening. It was the moment when humanity stopped playing the role of peaceful newcomers and revealed its true nature. And what was that true nature? It was both light and darkness. It was kindness and fury. It was the ability to build beautiful things and destroy terrible threats. It was the willingness to offer friendship to anyone who wanted it and bring ruin to anyone who chose violence. Humanity was, above all else, a species of choices. They had chosen peace for a century, and that choice had been beautiful. When they took that choice away, they chose war, and that choice was terrible. Now they chose to rebuild, to forgive, to move forward. And that choice, perhaps, was the most human of all. On Prime, Commander looked up at the flags flying over the capital, Earth's flag and Seven's memorial flag. "No more playing cultured," he said quietly. "No more pretending. Now the galaxy knows who we really are." He turned and walked back to his duties, leaving the flags to wave in the wind, a reminder of what humanity had lost and what they had become. The galaxy would never forget, and neither would humanity.